Welcome back to Light the Fuse, the only and therefore the greatest Mission Impossible podcast on the internet. Once again, this is Drew Taylor, joined by Charles Hood.
Hello.
And this week we have a very, very, very special guest, Lorne. How do you say your last name?
How would you like to say it?
Balfe.
Well, you did it.
Is it Balfe? Okay.
Yeah. Balfe's kind of affectionate.
Okay. Like a nickname. Yeah.
Hi, Balfe.
Yeah. And Lorne is the composer of Mission Impossible Fallout's amazing score, and we're so excited to be here.
Yeah.
Well, welcome. You're in my studio, which is where it was written. Some of it was written.
Some of it,
but not a lot. Actually, most of it was written. I had my studio got sent to London, and I wrote next door to the edit room.
Well,
so I lived there for about 8 months. Well, six months.
So when were you brought on to Fallout?
I was brought on. It probably close to about 10 months before it came out.
Oh. That was honestly longer than we thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Well, normally when I get asked a question, it's like it's normally like 3 weeks before.
Yeah, I talked to Danny Elfman a few months ago, and he was like, "Yeah, we wrote it all in like 2 or 3 weeks." So.
Yeah. No. I was on for a long time. So I think I started writing maybe 8 months, 9 months.
Okay.
And then I moved in next to editorial for about 4 or 5 months.
Wow.
Yeah, very, very long time, which is just rare these days, and you can't win because if you do it in 3 weeks and they like the music, they then say, "Oh, you see, you don't need that much time." and then if it takes so long to do it and it doesn't turn out well, then you're never going to win.
Right.
So no, it was a long period of time, but I think it was just so rare to be able to kind of spend time.
Yeah,
on something.
Because you're usually just running and gunning.
Sometimes there's a film last year did it in 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you say which one?
No.
Okay.
Oh, it would be a case of which one. but no, because I think that if I say it, then somebody will say, "Yeah, you should have spent longer." Yeah. But no, I think it's rare. But also, I just think you you're just able to distance yourself. And also, look, a movie like this is just absolutely intimidating. It's something that I was watching at college, and it was part of my life. So, and I've basically been, I said it before, and it sounds a cliche, but I honestly have been composing it in my head for 20 years.
You saw the first movie in college?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's one of our favorite movies.
Yeah,
so
and everything about it. That on the train, that shot there, it just all of it. There's very few franchises where you can keep following their journey.
Yeah,
Star Wars, Bond, and Ethan Hunt.
Yeah, and the quality that it's maintained is really
unlike a lot of franchises. It keeps getting better and better.
Yeah.
And Fallout has it's just gone amazing.
Yeah.
You must have been excited to get some of those dailies or however you got the footage whenever it came in. You must have been very excited to start. Well, or did you start scoring it all before the shoot? How did that?
I started writing before seeing anything.
Okay.
And I used to have breakfast with Chris Quarry.
Because he lives in London as well, right?
Yeah. Breakfast meetings. Let's call it a meeting. And
had you met him before?
No.
Okay.
No, and I got. I was fortunate to get a meeting, really through many mutual friends and work colleagues, and Paramount. I'd worked a lot with Paramount, and Randy Spenlove, who's head of music at Paramount, was pushing to get this meeting for me. And I think I just finished Ghost in the Shell, I think. And he got the meeting organised. There was other connections with, I'd worked on Dunkirk, and Jake, who was the producer on Dunkirk, was also the producer on Fallout. So, there's, and then Skydance, I'd done, I think 3, Terminator with Skydance. There was mutual kind of connections.
Right.
So, started having breakfast meetings, and then I kind of knew that I feel that I was out of my league. out of the league. And I think, because the sound, Danny's soundtrack for one is just iconic, and then Hans's with two with Lisa Gerard. It was just twisting all these things, and Michael and Joe. It's a big step. So basically, after like quite a few meetings, the more Chris talked about Ethan Hunt and what this movie was, and it's a different journey, I just started writing. And I thought, instead of kind of trying to talk and pitch ideas, I'll just go and I'll do something that I'm better at, writing music, than talking. So I just wrote, and I think that I had spent a long time, because I'd been so aware of every movie, I'd always watch and go, gosh, you could do that with the theme. Or what if you did that? All these
with the Mission Impossible theme.
Yeah.
And also the plot too. We'd love to talk to you about the plot.
Yeah. No, it's what's interesting. It's like it's so much DNA to start stripping apart and analysing. And I think that I'd been doing it for so long. It was like, okay, now here we go. I'll do it. Anyway, so I wrote it, gave it to him, and thankfully it worked out. He liked the music, and Tom liked the music, and it was a different approach. But it's fascinating, because if you take any of that music from the prior films and put it with this, it just doesn't fit.
Yeah, no, it's very singularly Fallout. Do you remember what that piece of music was? Did it end up in the movie?
Yeah, it was when it's throughout the movie. We for the wedding, you hear it there.
That kind of dissonant.
Yes, you hear it when they're walking through Paris. The trio, when Ethan Hunt's walking down.
Oh, and following Elsa.
Yeah, Elsa. You hear it there, and it was this singular piece of music that it was about Ethan's journey, but Elsa's journey also, and then the whole thing about, to me, Ethan's theme was always the Mission Impossible theme.
Okay,
that's how I looked at it, because I just thought, when you say Ethan Hunt, you go bum 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 bum. It's that.
Right.
So let's not try to write a tune. It's not going to be as good.
Right.
So just
right.
admit to your standards. And also to be, I've worked in quite a lot of franchises where, like with Terminator, I never understood why nobody kept using that theme.
Right. The Brad
Fidel. It's just like, it's obvious. You've got a very iconic rhythm. It's very like Mission. You've got an iconic rhythm and an iconic tune, so use it. I think some people don't necessarily want to use it because then it's not their music.
Right.
But to me, it's the character. So that piece that we're talking about, it was originally called Loves. I wrote a suite called Loves, and it was about that journey. I had some piano in it, and then Chris felt it was a bit busy. So I took the piano out and then called it Love's Reduced. And basically, that was the key piece. I think that he felt that it hit him.
Okay.
Storytelling wise, and then that kind of started the journey. And then also this fact of this, you've got this tune, you don't have to keep playing it all the time. And I was just, a lot of the pieces I was writing was just hinting at that ba-da-da, and just the three notes.
Yeah.
Why I keep doing, because as soon as you go to the next phrase, it changes the story.
Yeah.
Right.
So and some people can get bored of just hearing those three notes, but it contained it.
Well, do you also use the plot in a similar way?
Yeah.
Right.
Did you have specific reasons for when you would want to bring in the plot? Like, when did it feel right to do that?
Plot was a very difficult one to figure out when to use it, because I think we kept originally, so in the water subway,
yes,
in Paris,
when they come out and there's like that sort of marching band
yes,
version.
Yeah.
Love that.
So that wasn't originally there. That was the original piece of music, this Love's Reduced piece that we're talking about, that atonal string piece, and that had been there. That would place there like 5-6 months before. And then the one great thing about working on the film was the test screenings and seeing the pace, and all of a sudden it became, I can't take credit for it, it was very obvious that it slowed down, and I think sometimes the audience felt a bit tired, and you just needed to kind of be okay. We're back,
right?
And Eddie Hamilton, who just loves the plot theme, I think it was his idea to do it there.
Did he pull it from a different spot, or did you just you went back to the
No,
drawing board
he had
and,
the idea of doing it there, and then Chris had the idea of doing snares, which there are no snares in the whole film. So it's a kind of a very alien piece. And we kind of just started writing it in my room, and did and just it's a nod to those army black and white films, really. But it just kind of all of a sudden was respectful to the prior films,
right?
And you got to do it, then embrace it,
right?
And we kind of kept it loyal until the helicopter scene. We hinted at it, but it was like it's so iconic. And also the baddie theme, which all of a sudden we kind of you hear this I can't sing the lowest note, but we always called the baddie theme is in the plot theme, and it was right in the middle, and it was just like this so iconic, simple 2-note motif that I don't think had been used before, but it was all in Lalo's music, and it's the same as that rhythm, that ba da 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 da. It was like, okay, now we're gonna take it back. It's been in so many movies, that rhythm.
Right.
How much of his music did you go back and revisit? Lalo's original score from the 60s and even the 80s, or?
Well, the TV show I wasn't familiar with, so I kind of went back and watched that, because that really is that's the origin.
Right.
You actually watched the old episodes?
Not all of them, but some.
It's a lot of seasons.
We've been watching them too.
I love the first season in particular. I think it's great.
Yes. And I think I watched there was a movie in the 80s, wasn't there, or something? Was that a TV movie?
The TV show came back in the 80s.
Yes, but wasn't there kind of a TV movie?
They put three movies together. That's what is the Mission Impossible versus the Mob?
That was from the 60s show.
I'm
not
60s
sure.
Show,
I don't know. That's a little we can look into.
I kind of went back. It was very percussive, and that's where the idea of the bongos came from.
Right.
Because again, it wasn't meant to we weren't trying to kind of do a Ocean's 11 movie,
right,
and make it feel retro and jazzy. It was to try to kind of be loyal to the past, but make it. I treated it as if Lalo had written that theme yesterday.
Okay.
Oh, that's cool.
That's how to treat it.
Yeah.
And not to be nostalgic, and not to be kind of a pastiche or retro. It was literally, oh God, what a brilliant theme this is. It was written yesterday. Use it.
Right.
Instead of trying to kind of hold on to something in the past, which has worked in the other movies.
Yeah.
Probably not two. I don't think 2 did it.
Right. The other one seemed like more traditional.
One, yeah.
And this feels like a really modern take on the
I'm sure it'll sound out of date in 5 years' time, but it was.
I think it'll stand the test of time, and it's an amazing score.
I hope it stands, but mainly it stands because of those great themes.
Right. Sorry, go ahead.
No. Well, we were talking about how you do fold in a lot of things that have not been heard in the franchise. There's some electronic elements, some piano that sort of harkens back, and then some choral.
Yeah, some choral touches to the Mission Impossible theme.
Yes. Well, that was Go Bold or Go Home.
Okay, all of that stuff. Right?
I think it was. Firstly, the scene sets you up when they're going into the funeral.
Right.
And it was a taverner piece, and it kind of it just led to, okay, we should use this vocabulary to get us up to the top.
And whenever he jumps,
so great. And each jump. So that was the only cue that had choir. And then I think that writing the whole point of the end credits was to kind of say thank you to the fans, because it was the first time we just did it properly. It is as good as loyal to the original theme, but it's it's a Spinal Tap 11.
Right.
Yeah. You know, just when you think you can't add more, gosh, you're wrong.
Right.
So that was like, you know, it was doing that constantly, that last piece, trying to figure out what is this. And then the idea of doing Mission Impossible in Latin, I think I thought of like maybe 2 nights before or the night before the session. Oh, if we, you know, we've got the choir, get them to sing it in Latin.
That's awesome.
That's so cool. And where did the electronic and piano stuff come from?
The piano thing was, the piano motif was an idea to do with Walker, and it appeared in the scene when he was walking from the Tate. That slow walk.
Yeah. To me, it sounded like, I don't know if this was intentional or not, but and I know that McCory loves the 70s conspiracy thrillers, and it feels like a David Shire 70s type piano melody.
Yes, it was totally that shot with Henry in the raincoat. You know, for some reason, I was worried. I had been speaking to Chris when they were trying to film the skydive shoot, and I kept playing with this piano motif, and I thought maybe it's too romantic or something, or and I kind of sent it to him, and then he kind of heard it, and then he started thinking about different spots. You know, some of the best placing of the music came from him. You know, I'd write it for the scene, and it wouldn't be in that. You know, he would say, well, no, it should be somewhere else.
Right.
So that was so that piano motif with Henry was, to me, that was always kind of meant to be his Walker's motif.
Okay.
And then it would sometimes change, but it was a totally. I'm not very musical, so I can't quite describe what the notation of it is, but it just felt very kind of 70s.
Yeah.
And just very simplistic, and it's funny though, because, you know, I get messages saying, whose theme is that? What's it representing? And I, you know, sometimes you just got to kind of, it doesn't work to the film.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Every time that little piano melody comes in, it's love it. It's great.
And the weird thing about it when playing it, there's an amazing musician called Andy Richards in London, and I was brought up. My father was a songwriter, and Andy used to come up to the studio and play sessions, and he's worked with every band from the 80s, Paul McCartney, and I've lost track, you know, but there was something about his way of playing a piano, and when writing, there was something just gentle about the way he played, and I kept thinking, gosh, the way Henry's walking is kind of he's so confident. It's kind of, and also kind of romantic, the secure walk. So anyway, Andy actually played it for us, that piano motif, and it's very small but powerful, I hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it does sound amazing juxtaposed to the electronic stuff, which is very hard. And I think is this the first score that's had electronics in it?
What,
Never
2?
Mission Impossible?
2
does?
Yeah.
But at least you can tell that this is electronic and not trying to embody something else. But where did that come from?
It comes from the fact that I think that it's like, I look at it as that movies were made in black and white, and then they went into color. It's the same. It's the same with music.
Yeah.
I think that if you alienate all these wonderful tools that we have, it's like saying, well, we shouldn't be going into 3D or 4D or Atmos. It's just the evolution. So there was never an agenda or a plan to make it mod. You know, with but it
feels very of the time, which is nice. You know.
Yeah.
I think it creates a big contrast with Rogue Nation, because I think from what I read somewhere that Joe Kramer had decided to use only instruments that were available to Schifrin.
Right.
I think so. It's like, it's an interesting contrast.
Yeah, you know, it's. I think yes, you know, you can work with rules or you can work without them.
Yeah,
and I think that
this suited the movie so perfectly.
I didn't, you know, throughout my schooling, I didn't cope with rules.
Yeah,
unfortunately. So I don't. I think we never kind of, when going through cues, you know, the mission briefing was the hardest cue of the movie.
Why?
because of the information that you're being given.
It's so long.
It's the longest. It's the longest mission briefing, I think,
and
of any of the movies.
And I think that I don't know how many times, 10, 15 different times writing it, to see, okay, do we keep a pulse going? Do we, the original version, it was just very atmospheric, and it just bored you to sleep. It was, but it was very sonic soundscape. It was just not, and then. Yeah, we tried lots of different ideas, and also that scene changed quite a lot, also because of the voice.
Right. And it ended up being McQuarrie, right?
Yeah.
Does he?
Which I still can't believe it's him.
I know.
Because they tried different voices and
Alec was doing it, I think, at one point. He said.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did he work? Does McQuarrie work with temp music? And if so,
No.
does he share that with you?
Zero.
Okay, so that must be freeing for you.
Zero with me. I don't know about his prior films. I think I know. Maybe I don't think he does. Full stop. But I don't know. But I know in this, our temp was our school, because basically I was writing whilst they were editing.
Okay.
Right.
So unfortunately, if anybody wants to try to make a connection to Dark Knight or something, then
there's been a lot of.
You also wrote some music for Dark Knight, right? You're credited as an additional composer.
Yeah. But the funny thing is that I think certain things. Somebody was going on about a theme that was in a movie like 5 years ago, and I had to point out it was written in 1967. So you can't take that. But no, the temp was basically you'd have conversations, and it'd be like, what if we tried to do a piece based around just the rhythm of that Mission Impossible theme. So I'd write something in 3-4 minutes, and then whilst they were editing, they would play with it and say, "Oh, well, it fits here." And the mission briefing one was a very hard one, and the Halo jump was a hard one because of the sound effects.
Okay.
Right. Well, I love how the sound cuts out when the lightning bolt happens.
I know.
Yeah.
And I love that, because you think everybody's like, something's gone wrong.
Right.
Sophisticated.
Yeah.
We've heard a lot about this deleted scene of that there was an actual musical number.
Yeah.
Were you involved in that?
I was singing it.
You were singing. Wow,
that's why I got deleted. I didn't fit in the dress. Was I involved? No.
Okay.
I, as far as I was involved, I was there for the filming.
Okay. Oh, cool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I got to go to 2 scenes. Normally we never get invited to anything.
Right.
It's so I saw. I went to that scene, and it was just it's very exciting. Have you been to a big film set?
I have. He has.
It's so cool. And you're like peeping through the curtain, and it's just magnificent, the amount of detail. I mean, it's just the film crew. It's like a ballet. Everybody knows what they're doing. So saw that scene, and then the bridge scene right at the end.
Oh, cool.
When they do the exchange. Because I live next to it.
Oh, okay.
That's convenient.
So it was a very funny scene. So the deleted scene, no, it had nothing to do with it, but it was a great number, a great song, and it was kind of just a how do you describe it? I don't. It may be coming out on the.
Yeah, I don't think he's putting anything on the. Well, I guess they're doing like 100 versions of the home video release, so it might be on the Target exclusive or something.
Unfortunately, I had to do for everybody listening. I did a video commentary.
Oh wow!
It's an isolated score, right?
It's an isolated, isolated score.
That's great.
And then isolated commentary, ramblings.
That'll be great. I can't wait.
I mean, you got 2 people who are going to listen to it.
Yeah.
Right here.
My mum.
Yes. And us.
3 people.
Yeah.
I got 3. But it's semi-intro. It's kind of like a therapy session because you're going through each scene and you're remembering. Oh gosh, yeah, we tried that. It's like the whole opening. Originally, over the cards, the company, the title cards. that is my memory of films are openings, and when that light would go down in the cinema, and you'd see the studio logo appear, you get a tingle.
Yeah.
And it's always the thing that I'm always excited about doing. But the original opening was very drone and atmospheric, and it was a plot theme.
Oh wow!
And it was that boom, boom, getting very bigger and building to the wedding. And then after doing some of the recording sessions, I think Chris thought I was just a lunatic with my bongo fetish, because I kept sending him JPEG movies of what I was doing, and I don't think he would understood what I was doing half the time, because I'd have 2 bongo players, and I was like, God, this is a great sound. So I get 4, I get 8, I get 10. 12, and it was like multiplying, like a virus. It was
it's an amazing sound, though. I feel like that's been a tradition in the scores. I feel like Giacchino did a lot of fingers
there was always
on
that
bongos
kind
and stuff, but this is bigger.
Well, yeah, and it wasn't meant to be just because it's bigger, it's better, but it was just an interesting sound. And throughout the score, we were kind of going from 1 bongo player to 12, just changing, but also playing with drumsticks and like, instead of using bongo players, which there aren't many professional bongo players in the world, I got drummers, so that they had a different attitude.
Oh, okay.
Played with bamboo sticks and drumsticks and with their hands, but the main thing was it just kind of it made sense. I started experimenting with this idea of, okay, this is the sound of the movie, we should begin with this. And I just started kind of experimenting with this pulse coming in, fading away, coming in. And also it was probably, in hindsight, now when I think about it, I think it was very like the beginning of One, the military snares.
Yeah, that's true.
And it was kind of as simplistic as it gets, to have that kind of, not military, but tribal feeling.
Yeah. It's a really striking opening. I love the kind of when you do music over just the studio logo at the beginning. It's always so great.
I know.
Just gets you right in the mood right from the beginning.
Yeah, because it's like, okay, we've got to find out who's paid for it. We get it.
But it gives you something. It's just more interesting that way. It's always...
and when you see those logos and they're differently designed, it's just yes, this is the escapism you're about to witness for the next 2.5 hours, and it's, but it was fascinating, and also the feel when we changed that opening, how different the next 15 minutes felt. It gave you permission to kind of settle down.
Oh, that's
because
cool.
You had this building of like tribal drums.
Well, if you were doing the music while they were editing, were you sort of getting notes on your music as they were testing it and screening it into it? Okay.
Yeah. So very rarely, every test screening, I wrote every cue.
Oh.
A lot of test screenings, they have temp music in.
Yeah.
And they have music from Inception in it, and and everybody goes, "Wow, this movie's great." And then, but with this, no, it was always that rush. I think every 2-3 weeks before the screening, there would just be zero sleep.
Right.
It was
so there were 5 test screenings total.
I think so. Yeah. So it was because you just knew that you can't use that as an excuse.
Right.
When you have temp music, there's a question. What do you think about the music? People can say yes, it's fine, or or it sucked. Fine, it's temp. But this is our score,
right?
But it just taught us a lot about pacing and where if the audience, the hardest thing was also figuring out where to do our Mission Impossible theme. And you only figured that out when you had watched the whole thing.
So would you put it in places and then remove it and then put it in a different place? And okay.
Yeah, and I think Paris, the Paris scene with the convoy, there after the convoy for the bike ride, they're trying to figure out where to put the theme in, so it felt warranted, and not just because you're using it.
Right.
Just because you've got this great weapon, you shouldn't use it all the time.
Right.
Do you have a favorite composer that you had growing up, and has that changed, or people who you really looked up to when you were coming up?
That now I hate.
You met them now. They're terrible people.
I've been always very fortunate. Anybody that I've met I'm trying to think if I ever met somebody that let me down. No, when I was young, I don't think people really understood what film music was. I my careers advisor, when I said I want to do music, they said, "Well, okay, you'll be a teacher." I said, "I think there's other things I can do in music." And they went, "No." So I thought, oh, okay. So I think, Stuart Copeland did Wall Street. He's the drummer in The Police.
Yeah.
Just a massive inspiration. And then, the classical stuff, Vaughan Williams, the same stuff everybody says. And then, but then my taste was more kind of commercial music, like Depeche Mode, and The Art of Noise, massive influence on me. And then I think when I was like 17, 18, The Lion King just woke something up. It was like, oh God, you've got songs and this music around it. So Hans, not like I like to say it to him, but he was a massive inspiration, and still is. I worked for Hans for like 15 years. The first movie was Batman Begins with him, so it was the whole.
So what did he think of your mission? He's done one. Now you've done one.
Have you
the
talked
student becomes the master.
Oh no, there's no master. Can't be. No, there's no master. No, still a student. But no, I talked to him about it before I started, because I was very intimidated about it, and he said, all the movies we ever worked on, we never kind of talked about music. Talked about film making and talked about what the music should do, but we never talked about, well, this tonic triad chord should be that. It was never about that. It was just about filmmaking. And he just said, the most important thing, you've got to have fun.
And did you have fun?
A ridiculous amount. It's always easier at the end to look back.
Yeah.
You're banging your chest with pride.
Yeah.
But it was just, it was exhausting, but yet so satisfying, because you're working on something that's just it's bigger than you, and there's the pressure of that. You've got the biggest movie star in the world. One of the biggest, and also Chris McQuarrie. The Usual Suspects. My God, it's a genius.
We wanted to ask what your relationship was with him, like working wise, and just sort of how he's obviously been on this franchise since 4. I think the fourth one. Yeah. So I mean, did he sort of just take you through this, or what was that sort of experience like?
I think he always kept saying, he said something which, again, it took me probably till the end to fully for it to click, and he kept saying, mission tells you what it's going to do.
Yeah, he always talks about that in interviews.
And it took a while to understand, and it started making sense, and the way information, like mission briefings, have to happen, the way they're presented, and yet, at the end it was like, oh, I wish I'd figured this out. That was too slow.
It seems like it happened with him with Rogue Nation. I think it sounds like he kind of learned that by the end of Rogue Nation, and then applied it to making Fallout. Yeah, that he wasn't trying to will things to happen the way he wanted them so much. He was more letting it come and figuring out, like adapting to the situation and working within parameters, and
Yeah, and I think it was like he kept talking about a piece about him and Eddie were talking about a piece for. A piece of music that kind of represented a conclusion to things. I didn't know actually what scene it was for, but they kept talking about it, and it was the final cliff scene. And I went too far. I wrote like an 8-minute or 10-minute piece of music, but Chris knows when to use music and when not to. I think that's the genius.
Right.
When you don't use it, because I think it's all very well you put music here and it works, but knowing like that bathroom fight.
Yeah.
I remember watching it the first time and I thought this is the best fight I've ever seen in cinema history. It was just mind blowing, and all I thought was, how on earth do you score this? I have no idea. I'd never seen a scene that was just so it was like a ballet, it was a dance, it was just so perfect. And I couldn't figure out how what do you do with the music? It'll turn it comical, and it'll turn. There's so many beats, and it was just amazing. And then I said it to her, and he said, "Oh no, there's going to be no music there. The music is the drum beat from the nightclub."
Right. Yeah.
All of a sudden, it's a continuous underbelly.
Yeah.
Going on.
Hearing he talks about that music too. I think he talks about it both for Rogue Nation and Fallout. There's certain sequences where I think we was talking about motorcycles, or there's a certain sound effect that's so loud with them that if you put music on top of that, it would just be too much. So it's like knowing which sequences. There's certain action sequences that are driven by music, and then there's certain ones that are not.
I think, and also how to pace it so that your ears aren't tired.
Yeah.
Right.
That's how he talks about it too. Yeah.
And that was something that I'd learned that I hadn't really been aware of, about how to kind of not trick you, that sounds manipulative, but to kind of protect you from certain factors so that you can enjoy the next one.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have to wrap up. I wanted to ask just
we've got time.
Hey everybody, I'm just popping in here to say that Lorne was so generous with his time. We thought we were only going to have a half hour with him, but we ended up talking for over an hour. So we are splitting this into 2 episodes. So we'll be back next week to finish our 2-part interview with Lorne Balfe.
Thanks again for listening, everyone. And before we go, another mission, should you choose to accept it. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. And remember that you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at LightTheFusePod, and email us questions or comments at lightthefusepodcasts@gmail.com. If you'd like to watch the original Mission Impossible television show, all 7 seasons are currently available to stream on Amazon Prime. This message will self-destruct in 5 seconds.